Welcome to Say More, the podcast where we expand the conversation around what it means to be human. I'm here with my co-host, Emily Lawyer, licensed professional counselor, and I'm Andy Spray, her licensed professional best friend. We're answering your real questions, and while we're at it, creating a community where we can grow together, learn how to connect more to self in order to connect more to others and more to God. Hi!
We're back.
Guess what?
Welcome back.
It's season 3.
Amazing.
And you know, really all your favorite sitcoms start cooking around season 3. So, may that be the case, right?
We've worked out the kinks.
They're fledgling the first couple seasons. You're like, I see the vision. I'm going to stick with it. And then by season 3, we're really taking off.
You're getting to know the characters. You're invested in the storylines.
And then, somewhere around season 8, the main character leaves and the whole thing goes downhill. So you've got that to look forward to. We are glad to be back. In fact,
we sure are.
We got a really nice note over the break, and I won't read all of it, but I do want to share some of it. And we're going to call her a friend of the pod.
Okay.
Just a friend of the pod reached out to say how much she was appreciating it, and it's a very long, very sweet message. But she's going to sound like a paid actor, and I did not pay her. Okay, she sent this. I did not even reach out. I didn't solicit this. But, she says it's very encouraging. She refers to sassy sarcasm, me, which I think is about me. I think that's a me reference, perhaps.
I think you could probably take that one for yourself.
She talks about making connections, all these things. But here's my favorite part. She said, I appreciate how Emily gives all the science-y words and explanations. And then Andy says what she heard in more lay terms. I'm learning stuff with the sciencey part and understanding the tricky bits with Andy's explanations.
And your sassy sarcasm?
Sarcasm, but I just like that she said the tricky bits.
Yeah, I like that too.
Because it's tricky bits for me too.
That's really what we are doing. We've said from the beginning, when we sat down and said, okay, what do we really want to do in this podcast? We said we want to take complex topics.
Yeah.
And we want to put the cookies on the lower shelf. We want to break it down and approach it in a way where we can take it in and it actually results in actual change. So thank you so much for your encouragement in that. That is so meaningful for us.
When I wrote back to her, I said, honestly, you are describing exactly what we would have hoped somebody would say.
100%.
Like you have hit the nail on the head of like, what would you want your listeners to be getting out of this? And it was like, you nailed it. And her message was so encouraging to us. So all of you who've stuck around for the first 2 seasons, welcome to season 3. Keep learning the tricky bits along with us. Emily, I hope you have some sciencey words for us today.
Sure.
Okay. Some headier things.
Yeah, always.
Things that came along with that degree you can dust off and share with us. Sometimes, we like to play a game.
Uh-huh.
Today, we're going to do something a little different.
Trying out something different for season 3.
Well, I'm calling us to session.
Ooh.
And by that, I mean we're going to have a session of the forgiveness court. Gong gong. Okay. We are talking about forgiveness today.
We are.
To me, forgiveness screams legal drama.
Uh-huh.
And so what we're going to do is I am going to be acting on behalf of the prosecutor, the district attorney, if you will.
Okay.
And I'm going to be presenting some cases on a spectrum of forgivability.
Okay.
And if you are okay with it, I'm going to ask you to be the judge.
Sure.
You get to adjudicate these cases I'm presenting. But the listening audience, you are going to be our jury. So you get to decide how forgivable you think these things are to you. And you got to find a way to let us know. Okay?
Okay.
I have people, it's very fun actually. I have people telling me, and sometimes it's months later, and they're like, I knew all the Mad Gab answers that you couldn't figure out. So, or people still talk to me about the Prego versus Ragu.
Oh, really?
That was literally our first episode. So you're going to have to find a way to tell me how forgivable you think these things are.
Okay, I love it.
Okay, but I am going to be, on behalf of the people. That's what the prosecutor does. They represent the people. Now, I would also like to present my credentials.
Please.
For trying this case.
Okay.
I have basically passed the bar exam.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, I love a legal drama.
Boy, do you ever.
I love a legal drama. Now, I've gone on record. I'm going to cite precedent and say I've gone on record by stating I love the original Law and Order.
Yes.
And I've seen every episode from season 5 to 15 many times. That's my sweet spot. Okay, those are the Lenny Briscoe
5 to
years.
15 is your sweet.
Those are the Lenny Briscoe years, Emily. Those are my... Now, I've seen others and lots of other shows, but my legal credentials are the amount of times I've watched Law and Order.
Okay.
I will also warn you, just as a friend, I've started watching The Pit, which means that any day now I'm going to think I'm a doctor.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to start picking up shifts at the hospital.
This is how it works.
But right now we're focusing on my courtroom credentials.
Okay.
Now you, Judge, Your Honor, what are your courtroom credentials?
Well, I feel really good about this. I was a big fan of Night Court.
Perfect.
Judge Harry Anderson.
Harry, yeah, right, exactly.
Pull a thing of fake flowers out of my sleeve of my robe.
To a little
magic.
Yeah, exactly.
And, of course, I like everybody else. I've seen Judge Judy, Judge Joe Brown.
Yes, Joe Brown. He was an after-school staple. What's the other one? Just court TV.
Judge Wapner.
Wapner, thank you.
Dun-dun-dun.
Da-da. If you are of a certain age, you also had some level of the O.J. Simpson trial going on in the background of your childhood.
Yes.
/ adolescence, depending on your age. So I think it made all of us ready. But all that to say, court is in session.
I'm ready. Let's
gong,
go.
gong, the forgiveness court.
All right.
Okay.
Jury, you've been selected.
You've been selected.
Here we go.
Right. I was going to say, too, much like a regular jury pool, you do not get a say in this. Okay. But it is your civic duty to, 1, participate, and 2, find a way to tell me what you thought. Okay? That's your civic duty. You didn't get to choose. You've made it through jury selection. We're so glad you're here. Okay. Your Honor.
Yes.
I'm going to start off strong by saying there's nothing that really makes me hate my fellow man more than what I'm about to describe to you. This is a scenario that happens in 2 specific places. One is an outdoor concert.
Okay.
And one is the beach, but they're the same situation. And I would argue to you that they are unforgivable.
Proceed, counsel.
Thank you. When you show up, we'll say the beach, but this also applies, like I said, to the concert. You look out your window, it's early in the morning, and someone from your party drags all your chairs out there, scopes out a spot, okay? Then looks to where the lifeguard chair is and brings your chairs all the way to the edge of that because they know the rules of the beach are you cannot be in front of the lifeguard chair. You have to be lined up with the lifeguard chair if you're on a public beach. And they drag all your chairs out there and they set up your tent so that you can get a spot. And usually it's pretty early in the morning if you want to do this, if you don't have like a service that does this for you. And you're ready to enjoy your beach day. And some Yahoo comes with their things and sets them up directly in front of you.
Oh, boy.
And they want to look at the ocean, but guess what? So do you. And you got there early enough to get a spot to look at the ocean. Again, same for concerts. This happened to me this summer, and someone set up a high-backed hammock chair in front of me, and I wanted to kick it over, and it distracted me the whole time because I drug my chair, and I set it right up at the line, and they squeezed in front of me. What is your legal opinion / moral opinion of this issue?
So these are prior offenses.
Yes.
Multiple offenses.
Yes.
You've staked your property.
Recidivism. They're going to repeat their crimes after they get out. No public shame has worked on them. In fact, the couple at the concert heard me talking about them, and then we heard them talking about us. But I was so angry, I could not contain it. On behalf of the people.
You've staked your property claim. Someone, an interloper.
Yes, it's really a property crime. Good point.
It really is. Well, we're going to cue to the jury. Jury, what say you? Forgivable? Unforgivable?
I think the jury will agree that if you have followed the rules and you have set up, it is, I'm going to say 100% wrong for somebody to do that to you. And they deserve to be talked about / shamed.
If I may,
yes,
offer from my training, my credentials. I believe somewhere in the law journals, this is filed under finders, keepers, losers, weepers.
Exactly.
The storied precedent.
The case of finders and keepers versus losers, weepers that should have been the case law I was citing. Okay, I have another case to present to you.
All right.
I recently returned from a trip to Disney World. I love Disney World. Sue me, okay? It's a safe, walkable place. There are snacks and music and rides, okay? It's awesome. I'm a de facto leader of my group, planner. So there's already a certain level of overstimulation from the amount of children in my party asking me where we're going and what we're doing. That is not up for debate. I forgive that. Okay. However, here's the part I find unforgivable. When able-bodied adults push past you, okay? They're elbowing, they're shouldering their way past you. I'm not even talking about like in line, which I think most would agree that is really offensive. Sometimes they sort of corral you and then you move into another area and people are elbowing. Again, that you're trying to stay with your party. I'm talking you're just walking through the streets of Disney World.
The magical...
It's magical. There are bubbles and everything smells like popcorn. And these grunting, slothing people are pushing past you to get, I don't know where. Okay? And I think part of the blame, Your Honor, falls on Disney itself.
Oh.
Because Disney has led you to believe you are the most important person on earth. Everyone at Disney thinks they're the most important person on earth. In fact, we're with my niece who's dressed up like a princess, okay? She's being told she's the most important person on earth, and that really conflicts with the idea of maybe everybody is worthy of some space on the sidewalk.
Okay.
Maybe we could all walk at a reasonable pace when there are children and strollers around.
And that is what you are presenting to the jury.
I am presenting the people pushing you and like physically touching you to get by you.
Okay.
I'm presenting that as unforgivable.
So I happen to know in our jury, we do have some tried and true Mouseketeers.
Okay. Some Disney adults are listening.
Some Disney adults who are definitely listening. So you probably have selected a jury that's going to help you out there.
I believe voir dire allows for that.
Wait, what?
That is the process. I'm telling you, I went to law school.
I don't even know what that is. And
that is the jury selection process where the other side can challenge who you have chosen.
I see. Okay.
That you stacked the jury to be too beneficial to your defendant.
Okay. So again, we'll throw to the jury and see what they decide.
I think they're going to agree with me because they are an intelligent group of like-minded peers.
Yes.
You can also butter up the jury. Okay, that's part of what the good lawyers do. Yeah, I mean, I don't hear any objections.
It stops short of complimenting their outfits or something.
You look really good today. Don't you think it's terrible? When people run you off the road, everyone's the main character at Disney World. And I think that's part of the problem. Now, Your Honor, I have another case for you that is going to seem opposite, but we are of complex legal minds here. My other unforgivable, hear me out.
Okay.
Is people walking too slow. Now, I know this is going to feel, okay. Hang on.
Are we sure this is what's next on the docket?
It is next on the docket, Your Honor, because Disney World exists in its own universe, and the rest of the world doesn't. Everyone at Disney World is on vacation.
Yes.
Okay. Not everyone in New York City is on vacation.
That is correct.
Unless you are in Times Square, the people around you are going to work, going somewhere. They have places to be. Okay. I understand at Disney World you're excited. I do not think that means you should push past families like with your elbows, like physically push past them. However, in New York City, if you are walking too slow, you deserve to be pushed past.
Counselor, I'm going to ask you to approach the bench.
Yes, I think sidebar, Your Honor. Yes.
I think we need to, something feels personal at this point.
I'm just saying, if you stop to take a photo, you need to move off the sidewalk.
Okay.
And you need to keep up with the pace of traffic. You cannot walk in a row of 4. Even if you're with your family, you can't walk all in a line because people need to be able to move past you. This is not only New York City. I would say just in general, when you're traversing around a city that isn't an amusement park, You need to, both of these, I would actually argue legally are the same. You need to be aware of other people and what's going on with the people around you.
And you are proposing to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
yes,
that this is unforgivable.
I would say this is unforgivable. Walking too slow in a city or taking pictures of things that people need to get to is unforgivable, such as pushing past people because you think you're the most important person at Disney World. Equally unforgivable.
Okay.
Different but the same.
Okay.
Your Honor, different but the same.
Well, Jerry, we're not going to give you much time to break for deliberation.
No.
We're going to ask you to decide right now.
Right now. You have to just hurry up. We're not going to sequester you. There's another legal word. You have to just answer. Okay. Here's my last case, Your Honor.
All right.
Because I understand we have a full
day.
A full load today.
Okay.
And this is a little more gray. Watching a show together with someone and then you moving on without them.
Oh.
I would submit. Now, many people would say that is unforgivable to move on through a show that you are watching with somebody. I would say, unless that somebody is in your house, it is forgivable.
It is forgivable.
Yes.
You have made an agreement. You're presenting to the jury.
There are mitigating circumstances, and that is, if you don't live in my house, it's very hard to watch a show with you at the same pace.
So therefore, you're presenting to the jury that is a forgivable offense.
That is a forgivable offense. However, if I am married to you and you live in my house and we together are watching Severance and you watch it ahead of me, straight to jail. No bail. You're being held on remand, straight to jail.
You're asking for a decision and sentencing today.
Yes, we can move right to sentencing.
Straight to sentencing.
Your Honor, I would like to allow that watching a show with somebody who doesn't live in your house is a good thing and can be fun. For example, you do not live in my house, Your Honor.
No.
And we have attempted to watch shows, but it's hard to keep the pace the same. And
That's
sometimes
correct.
we'll say, I watched ahead, catch up before the next time we're together, and we'll watch episode
that is correct.
Together. I find that forgivable, and I hope the jury will see that. However, if you live in my house and we are doing it together, that is the most unforgivable crime that I've presented here today.
All right, jury, here's your last for the day before we break for lunch. Forgivable or unforgivable for someone who lives in your house.
Lives in your house.
To watch an episode of a show that you have previously agreed you were going to watch together.
There was a previous contract agreement.
A binding
contract. And I think you will find that you can't render that null and void if you live in the same house. Living out of the house renders your contract void. You can work it out. However, if you live in my house, that is a legal term that you have agreed to when you said I do at the altar. It was part of our wedding vows. And I would like the jury to, quickly deliberate, let us know their findings, and thus concludes our first session of Forgiveness Court.
Overruled.
Gong, gong. All right, well, listen, as fun as Forgiveness Court was, let's get into our question of the week.
Does forgiveness always mean restoration? Can you forgive someone and not be restored?
All right. Such a good question to kick us off for season 3. Probably most of us are in agreement that forgiveness is something we want to move towards, right? We hear people telling us all the time that we're supposed to forgive, or we hear how we'll find more freedom and peace on the other side of it. In fact, I've been telling you, Andy, for weeks how much I was looking forward to this episode. Yes? Because I said I'm so passionate about helping people navigate all that. So that's what we're going to do today together in our episode. Here's the thing. What is forgiveness, actually? What does it mean to really forgive? What's involved? What's required? Every one of us has assigned some meaning to it, But what we've assigned to it, I'm proposing, is getting in the way of us actually being able to forgive.
Ooh, you are starting strong because I'm already very curious. Okay, so what would some of those assumptions, assigned definitions be?
That we might have for forgiveness. All right, so here's how it often works. Maybe we've heard things like refusing to forgive is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's
yes,
one
I
that
have heard that.
floats around a lot. Or to forgive, we see these on the meme that comes across social media, or we've heard it spoken. To forgive is to set the prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you.
Yes.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
Those are solid statements.
I was going to say, I like those. Are we debunking them?
No, those are solid statements.
Okay.
It's just that we hear things like that without sufficient information around what forgiveness actually is. And then we're left to just fill in the gaps ourselves with what we assume or think forgiveness is, or what forgiveness must be.
Yeah.
So we're going to explore some of the most popular ones that we use to kind of fill in those gaps. All right. The one that I think I hear the most is forgiveness means just letting it go. Here's what I found as a counselor. Letting it go usually ends up looking like ignoring the pain and calling it virtue. And for those of us in the Christian faith, often we're even told to lay it at the feet of Jesus, right? So we do that, and it actually momentarily might feel helpful. Again, I'm on board with that concept. But if my working definition of forgiveness is just ignoring my pain, or as we've kind of explored together in this podcast, if my body doesn't feel safe to let the pain move through, I'm going to lay it at the cross, and then I'm just going to pick it right back up again.
Okay, so it's just a temporary stopping over. It's not really letting go of anything.
Because what have we learned, class, about resisting emotional pain?
Sure.
What I resist persists.
Yep.
Right?
It's got to rhyme.
It's going to, and so when that pain, we've learned that it's got to rhyme.
Sorry, that's again, that's what you learned in grad school.
Yes.
But yes, if I ignore it, it's going to come back bigger and stronger.
Bigger and stronger and stick around all the more.
So to quote unquote just let it go is really, you're just ignoring it and it's just going to keep coming back and back.
Correct. And then when the pain comes back, as it inevitably will, well, now often we try shaming ourselves into letting it go. We start believing these stories like, oh, what's wrong with me? I must not be following Jesus enough to be able to forgive, quote, forgive, right? Or I must not be trusting Jesus enough. I need to forgive like he forgives me. Again, I'm on board with those concepts.
Yeah.
It's just that it doesn't work. And so in a similar vein, forgiveness also doesn't mean just forgetting, which is often what I hear. There are things in our lives that we can't forget. I mean, you and I, we started off in our opening today with some forgivable or unforgivable offenses that were a little more lighthearted. There are some offenses that have been committed against us that we cannot forget. In fact, we've even talked about how some emotional pain literally makes an imprint in our biology, in our nervous systems, in our bodies. On top of that, sometimes the wounding is so severe and so painful, it's wise for us not to forget. It is wisdom to pay attention to those boundary violations and then make protective decisions accordingly. So, let's bring in our question a little bit more as we're exploring this forgetting part. Forgiveness also does not mean reconciliation.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. Forgiveness is not a requirement to trust or reconcile in a relationship where there has been serious wounding or there has been serious boundary violations. We'll probably end up, honestly, having a whole reconciliation episode at some point because it's just too much to fit in today, but we can speak to it a little bit. Forgiveness can only take place if the offense is in the past. It can only take place if the offense is in the past.
Not an ongoing offense.
If it is ongoing, it's a boundaries conversation.
Okay.
So like we're saying, if that wounding is continuing to occur, that's a boundaries conversation first. And if you need a refresher on that, go back and listen to our boundary episodes. We'll link those in the show notes for this episode. But once that protection is in place and the offense is no longer happening, then I can add the forgiveness piece on top of that. But forgiveness is about the past. Reconciliation is about the future and defining what limits or boundaries will look like for that trust to be earned back. I mean, we can even use scripture to back this up. Proverbs says, a righteous man is cautious in friendship. It is wisdom to have those boundaries and limits put in place. And that's the kind of wisdom that we're offering in this particular context.
Okay.
All right. Next up, forgiveness does not mean that things will be as they once were. That things going back to how they once were means I've successfully forgiven. It's not an indicator or a marker that if things have gone back to how they are, well, that means I've done it. I've successfully forgiven. Or it doesn't mean that we're saying what the other person did was okay. We can wish and hope for things to go back the way they were. Can always hold on to that hope. And sometimes with time and God's grace, it does return. Things can be restored. But if it doesn't, that does not mean that we're not doing the work of forgiveness. Because forgiveness also doesn't mean that there's no consequences, right? We live in a world that abides by the concept of cause and effect, reaping and sowing. And so when there is an offense, there are relational consequences. There are sometimes spiritual consequences. Sometimes there need to be legal consequences.
Sure.
Right? Sometimes there's financial consequences that come along with an offense. So when I'm doing the work of forgiveness, me saying I'm in the act of forgiving does not mean that there's not going to be consequences or even ongoing consequences. Forgiveness is also not a way that I can skip out on consequences. People sometimes will ask for forgiveness as code for saying I'm sorry, right? To kind of highlight an apology. So it might sound like, I really lost my temper with you. I'm sorry. Can you forgive me?
Okay.
Often that will kind of come along in one fell swoop. I can offer a lot of grace to that. I've certainly done that myself. Over the years, I've also tried to change that in myself because forgiveness is a gift that's given from the other person. We don't apologize to try to get forgiveness from somebody else.
So when someone's basically jumping right to, can't you just forgive me? You're saying that's sort of a shortcut.
Often it's a way that we're trying to skip out on our own feelings of guilt or our own feelings of shame in some way to try to absolve that a little more quickly.
Okay, and moving the other person just towards forgiving us so we can all just, let's move on.
Correct.
And that the other person doesn't get a chance to feel any
as we're saying, there's consequences, there's pain that comes along with that, right? So we apologize to own what's ours to own. We don't apologize to try to get or
manipulate the other person, honestly. Sounds like what you're saying.
Yes, and again,
maybe not intentionally.
Right. I offer a lot of grace to the word manipulation because, truth be told, we all use manipulation, often very unconsciously, because pain hurts. And so why wouldn't we try to be skipping out on that pain? But that's another thing that forgiveness is not. And finally, forgiveness does not mean that we don't feel pain. Now, if I'm holding on to the pain, that's different. And we're going to say more about that in a few minutes. But sometimes we even will find ourselves saying to someone, I forgive you. And we're really sincere in it. But we still feel pain, sometimes for years to come, that it can continue for an incredibly long time. Feeling that pain or continuing to feel that pain doesn't mean that we haven't forgiven. It means that we're human.
Yeah. I want to make sure I'm tracking because there's already been a lot of meat here.
A lot.
Right? And so I think what I'm hearing you say is forgiveness does not mean you won't feel pain. It doesn't mean there won't be consequences. It doesn't mean that you necessarily need to be reconciled to someone. So we talked a lot about the things forgiveness is not. So could you help us with a good understanding of what forgiveness is, what it actually looks like, kind of a better definition?
So that we can move into something that, yes, can feel more like that. Okay. My understanding of forgiveness has continued to evolve over the years. Here's where I am currently, and I feel pretty good about it. Forgiveness is no longer asking the other person to be responsible for my emotional pain.
Okay, hold on. Don't say anything yet.
Okay.
Because I want to sit in that. Forgiveness is when you can no longer, or you don't expect the other person anymore to be responsible for my pain.
My emotional pain.
Even if it's the person that hurt you. I don't expect them to be responsible for my pain anymore.
You got it.
That's forgiveness.
You got it.
Well,
now, it brings up the question. Well, Emily, then who is responsible for my emotional pain? I am.
But somebody offended me.
I knew it. I knew the objections would already, and I can hear them coming through the
Your
airwaves.
Honor, objection. Objection. Leading the witness. No, truly.
Yes.
So you're saying but somebody did something to me. This is not my fault that this thing happened or that I feel this way.
Absolutely. What do you mean the other person isn't responsible? They're the ones who did it.
Yeah.
They're the ones who did this to me.
Certainly seems like they're responsible.
What do you mean, Emily? Correct. And they are responsible for owning their consequences to their behaviors. They are responsible for owning their emotional pain or their relational pain that comes along with those consequences. But the pain I am feeling as a result of their choices or their behavior, the pain I'm feeling is mine to own because nobody else can feel my pain for me. In order for that pain to move through, I have to own what is mine to own.
So is it, I guess it must be a pretty common thing that we are expecting people to carry our pain for us. Is it in ways that we're not even thinking of?
Yes, absolutely. And we're all in the same boat together. Because, again, going back to just how pain operates. It's pain. It hurts. Why wouldn't I want to skip out on feeling that? Or why wouldn't I want to try to put that on somebody else so that I don't have to feel it?
And what does that look like when we're putting it on other people?
When we're doing that,
when we're expecting other people to carry it?
So it's basically any way that I am holding on to saying, you owe me. It's any way that I'm holding on to the debt. Or holding on to you've got to do something first or different so that I don't have to be in this pain anymore. So it might actually even look like that. It might look like wanting them to have done something different in the past. Sometimes we can get caught in ruminations of if they had only done fill in the blank, or if the past had only been fill in the blank, then I wouldn't be having to feel this pain. What often ends up happening is, again, completely unconscious. We have expectations of how people are supposed to behave or expectations of how people are supposed to show up in relationships. And often those expectations are informed by how I would show up in the relationship. And it's just, again, it's just a human thing. We take those expectations, well, this is what I would do, and then we put it on other people. We project it onto other people. And then they do something different because they're a different person. They're not me, which is such a painful and hard reality to face from the front. And so part of what it would look like to say, well, what's mine to own instead would be managing those expectations. Okay, here's what I expected this person to do. And then here's what I got. I'm going to face that reality. I'm going to accept that reality. And then I'm going to manage my own expectations around what I'm expecting from them. And it might, in a very practical way, managing my expectations might look like changing what I entrust to them.
So you're talking about like partially just accepting when somebody has hurt you or let you down and sort of facing that reality and then, okay, now what do I do from here?
Right.
And part of what do I do with my own hurt or disappointment? And then what do I do about our relationship?
Yes.
Okay.
Instead of continuing to demand that they do something different, or even continuing to, in my own mind, stay looping on if they only had done what I expected them to do. That's a way sometimes that I'm asking someone else to take responsibility for my pain. It might look like me demanding that they apologize.
Okay.
And an apology is wonderful. And in certain relationships, we will get apologies. In certain offenses, we will not. But saying, I cannot forgive until I get an apology from you, that is one of those ways that sometimes we still expect other people to be responsible for my emotional pain.
Well, we definitely, I mean, I hear this, like, they're not even sorry about what they did. They're not even changing their behavior. How could I possibly forgive them?
Yes. And there is pain for you that will come along with that. There, deep grief, deep disappointment, anger, frustration. We're gonna get to where we want to name that. But that part of the forgiveness process is recognizing, I'm holding on to, they have to do that first in order for me to step into forgiveness.
Okay.
So it might look like I need them to show me their pain.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes it's I need to see them being as upset as I am. I need to see them crying as much as I am. I need to see them as distraught as I feel in order for me to forgive. It might look like demanding or wanting something different from them, even though I never told them that that's what I expected from them, right? Sometimes in our own minds, we, again, get caught in these ruminations of, well, they should have just known. They should have just known. And sometimes continuing to try to work that through is a way of still holding them responsible for my emotional pain. And again, back to our question, reconciliation does take two people and absolutely requires evidence of the other person doing something different. But that's reconciliation. Forgiveness only takes one person.
Oof.
Me.
Okay, I fear I'm going to ask the $1 million question. And that is, what does it look like to own my own pain? I mean, we sort of talked about, like, I'm not expecting you to carry it anymore, but what do I do?
Then what do I do with that? If, as everybody is listening and saying, okay, this is a hard pill to swallow, Emily. Not sure that I'm a real fan of this, but I'll stay with you. If I decide to step into what forgiveness actually looks like, what does it look like to own my own emotional pain? Short answer, as we are fond of saying, back to our rhymes, name it to tame it and feel it to heal it.
Of course. It has to rhyme or it's not clinically accurate.
However, we can also look at what Jesus models for us when it comes to what forgiveness actually looks like. So we'll set the scene. One of the scripture passages that often people who are Jesus followers utilize is when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, the night before he is set to be killed by the people that he has come to earth to save. If that's not an unforgivable offense, I don't know what is. And here is what Scripture tells us. This is what it looked like for Jesus, and in his full humanity, to own his emotional pain. First, he felt it. He acknowledged it, and he allowed the emotion. His Scripture tells us his body felt the pain in excruciating ways. That might look the same for us. It might look like collapsing into a heap of tears. It might look like screams of agony. There are times when the offense is so heavy and so painful that our body is agonizing in anguish in the suffering. Jesus also modeled for us that he offered his emotional pain to God. And he was able to take in and receive comfort from God in his suffering. That is also, for those of us who are Jesus followers and follow that faith, to be able to allow God into that pain can be a huge part of owning our own emotional pain. He asked for support. We know in the passage it says that he invited 3 of his closest friends to come with him to the garden, and he asked them, he said, my soul is so deeply troubled. Can you sit here with me? Mm. So to vulnerably let others know what I'm going through as I'm moving through the emotional pain. And then he did all of that, the letting his body, feeling it, inviting God in, receiving comfort, asking them to stay. He did all that multiple times.
Okay.
Sometimes owning our own emotional pain looks like doing this over and over.
Not a one and done.
Not a one and done. Over and over and over. And then he took a next step in obedience to what God was asking him to do. Again, for those of us in the Christian faith, when we say, I want to forgive others as Jesus forgave me, this is what that looks like.
Okay.
This is what that looks like. And we're also going to name all of that is really, really, really difficult to do at times. It takes time.
Right. I just think forgiveness has maybe been thrown around in a way that it almost cheapens how profound of a transformation it is.
Yes.
And, certainly the work that you're being asked to do when you're being called to forgive. And when the expectation is just like, forgive and move on, forgive and let go, like you were saying earlier, it's like it really cheapens that process that you just described, which is like a real transformative situation.
Completely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've mentioned before, moving through emotional pain is a way that we move into greater maturity.
Yeah.
If that pain is allowed to transform us. Mm. So yes, that's very well said. Now I'm going to finish us up with this. I've mentioned before, I have a couple of specialties. My main specialty is working with compulsive sexual behaviors, unwanted compulsive sexual behaviors, sexual addiction, and then often how that shows up in betrayal trauma. Mm. In my work with couples who are moving through that type of condition, we use a very specific protocol as part of the healing. And the protocol includes the offender writing a letter disclosing all of the offenses, which if we're talking about sexual addiction, the breadth and the width of offenses is vast.
And they have to include everything?
Vast.
Oh, boy.
And
like
then,
many pages.
Many pages.
Got it. Okay.
And then
sounds awful.
It is incredibly painful.
Ugh.
And then the second part of the protocol is the offended, the betrayed, writes a letter naming what they are experiencing as a result of the betrayer's behaviors and choices.
Ugh.
It is excruciating. It's excruciating.
And you choose to sit in this room for...
And let me tell you why. Okay.
That's very hard.
It's unspeakably hard.
Yes, my gosh.
One of the main reasons why the protocol includes those components is because it allows the couple to start stepping into this kind of forgiveness work. It allows the betrayer to start the work of self-forgiveness, to own their pain of their shame and guilt and grief resulting from their own behaviors and choices. And it allows the betrayed to start the work of forgiving the betrayer, to own their own pain of rage and devastation and shame, also felt as a result of the other person's behaviors and choices. And I am so grateful to these couples because when they step into that kind of, like I'm saying, mind-blowingly courageous work.
Wow.
God has used that to teach me so much about what forgiveness actually looks like or what it actually requires. I think forgiveness is less of a finish line and it's more of a language that we learn to speak fluently. So it's okay to say, and sometimes this will come up in this kind of protocol. It's okay to say, I want to forgive. I want to forgive you. I'm learning how to practice that.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to speak the language of actual forgiveness, or even by God's grace, I'm forgiving you a bit more each day. However, I'm not ready to say it's fully forgiven yet, right?
Yeah.
Christians we're very familiar with the passage in the Bible that recounts Jesus's reply when one of his disciples asks him, "Hey, how many times do I have to forgive someone when they've committed an offense against me?" And in the passage, the disciple says up to 7 times.
Yeah.
And Jesus's reply is, "LOL." Try
multiply it.
Yeah, try 77 times 7. And of course, Jesus isn't meaning, upwards of 500 times. It's symbolic of infinity. But I think that's evidence of how Jesus understands our human condition better than we understand it ourselves. He understands how emotions work. And he understands the way emotional waves are going to continue to pound us over and over and over again, and how every time that happens, we're going to want to make somebody else responsible for our emotional pain so that we don't have to feel it, or that we're going to try to make the pain go away by ignoring it or just letting it go.
Yeah.
But he knows we will never find lasting peace and lasting freedom if we think that's what forgiveness looks like. So he gives us something different. And that's what we're all learning to practice together in our Say More community.
I have to just chew on some of that for a minute. I like when you said forgiveness is not a finish line. It's a language we learn to speak. And I certainly want to be somebody who is characterized by forgiveness and moving towards forgiveness, but it's not this cheap place that we just arrive to.
Mm-mm.
And if we tell ourselves it's cheap and then we still feel bad, we're just going to have the shame all over again of I failed, I guess I'm not doing a good job, I guess this, I guess that, or this person is still to blame. All those things where it's like, no, I've got to work through the transformative process of what forgiveness actually means. And I also love your other mic drop moment about reconciliation takes 2 people, but forgiveness is
just one.
Just one, me.
Just me.
Yeah, just me. Listen, you didn't think we were going to start season 3 easy, did you? No, we weren't going to do it because we're here to work out the tricky bits. We're here to laugh and cry our way through the human experience. We're so glad you're with us, all of our friends who are joining us for this journey. Keep sticking around. We've got lots more to come. Check out the show notes. Go back and catch up on other episodes so that you too can rhyme about emotions.
You can rhyme your way into forgiving somebody.
You'll rhyme your way right into it. And that's going to be how people know she's legit. She really understands. So keep sticking with us and keep speaking the language of forgiveness. And we'll see you next time.